All right, let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a fascinating deep dive into a question that sits right at the very heart of business technology and, well, progress itself.
Yeah, a really fundamental one.
What is the true nature of innovation? Is it about relentlessly improving existing things? Or is it maybe about, conjuring entirely new worlds?
Big questions.
To tackle this, we're essentially staging a debate, a sort of intellectual showdown between two titans whose ideas have just profoundly shaped how we understand companies succeeding or failing.
Two really influential thinkers.
On one side, we've got Clayton Christensen, his groundbreaking work on disruption, famously laid out in The Innovator's Dilemma.
Classic.
And on the other side, Peter Thiel's provocative philosophy of creation, or going from 0 to 1 from his book with the same name.
It's a compelling clash, really, because these aren't just abstract academic theories floating around.
Not at all.
They are incredibly powerful, often conflicting blueprints. I mean, blueprints that entrepreneurs, executives, investors use every day to build or sometimes challenge empires.
Right.
They offer fundamentally different visions for how companies should grow, how they achieve success, maybe even how they redefine entire markets.
So understanding the nuances of both and, where they intersect or where they really diverge, that can give you immense clarity.
Absolutely. Clarity on market shifts, competitive strategies, the very future of industries. It doesn't matter if you're building a company, investing, or honestly just trying to make sense of this rapidly evolving world we're in.
Exactly. And to guide us through this intellectual sparring match, we've gathered quite a stack of sources.
Yes, some great stuff.
We'll be pulling from seminal works like Seven Powers, Blitzscaling, Liar's Poker, The Everything Store, Elon Musk, that big biography, plus various articles and research pieces.
Real deep dive.
Our mission, like always, is to distill the most important nuggets of knowledge from all this rich material. We want to help you become incredibly well-informed on these crucial concepts. Hopefully offer some surprising facts, maybe just enough humor to keep you completely hooked.
So, in essence, we're dissecting two main arguments here. One perspective, that's Christensen's. It champions disruption.
Right.
It's about creating something simpler, cheaper, often initially less sophisticated. This new thing, it targets an overlooked or maybe underserved market segment, and then almost deceptively, it evolves.
Sneaks up on you.
Exactly, and unseats the incumbent market leader. The other perspective, Thiel's, it advocates for creation.
0 to 1.
That's it. Building something entirely new.
Right.
Moving from 0 to 1 to establish new markets where, and this is crucial, no direct competition initially exists. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you'll see how these ideas often push and pull against each other in the real world, both claiming, really, to be the most powerful path to sustained growth, enduring value, maybe even wealth creation.
All right, let's not wait any longer then. Let's kick off the first round of this strategic showdown. We'll start with the compelling and honestly for incumbents, often terrifying concept of disruption.
The disruption doctrine overthrowing from below.
Okay, so let's dive into Clayton Christensen's really powerful idea, disruptive innovation. Now, it's super important to distinguish this from what he called sustaining innovation.
Yeah, that's key.
Sustaining innovation is what most companies do, right? Making a slightly better product for their existing, usually most profitable customers.
Like a faster chip, yeah.
Exactly. A faster processor, a more comfortable car seat, a slightly more efficient whatever. Disruptive innovation, though, that's different. It's way more insidious for the established players.
It really is.
It's not about competing head-on at the high end of the market, no. Instead, it's about introducing something simpler, cheaper, and often, at first glance, less sophisticated. A product or a service.
Maybe even seems a bit crude initially.
Right. And this new offering, it appeals initially to a totally new or overlooked segment of the market. Typically, people who are maybe underserved by what's out there already or who just can't afford the current high-end stuff.
Oh, yeah, so it finds a crack.
Exactly. This seemingly inferior product then starts to gradually improve. Often it leverages some new technology or maybe a different business model, and eventually it overthrows the established market leader from below. It completely redefines the market.
It's like attacking from the periphery, moving into a space the big guys just don't value, or maybe don't even see as a threat.
Until it's way too late.
And this right here is where the dilemma for those established companies really hits home. Why do these otherwise incredibly successful, often market-leading firms, with all their resources, all their talent, why do they frequently miss these nascent disruptive threats?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It ties into some really fundamental truths about, well, organizational behavior and maybe even human psychology and business. Theodore Levitt's classic marketing myopia.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It offers a profound insight here. He argues, basically, that every major industry was once a growth industry. But its eventual decline, it often happens not because the market is saturated. It is because there has been a failure of management.
Well, what kind of failure?
Well, often it's a failure of imagination, a failure to redefine their business beyond just the products they currently sell. Companies get so sort of myopically focused on their existing most profitable customers.
The ones paying the bills right now.
Exactly. And the metrics that serve those customers. They fail to see new needs popping up or new ways of serving needs emerging at the edges. They define themselves too narrowly.
Like we're in the railroad business, not we're in transportation.
Precisely. That narrow focus makes them blind to emerging market realities, especially the ones starting below their current profitable tier.
Okay, that makes sense.
And if you look at the broader economic picture, companies are just inherently wired to prioritize maximizing their present and prospective profits from their existing investments. Keynes talked about this.
Right, the bottom line.
This logical focus makes incumbents less likely, sometimes even averse, to investing in these lower margin, seemingly less attractive, disruptive innovations. I mean, why would a successful company divert precious resources, capital, top engineers, management attention from a high-profit product serving their best customers?
To some low-margin experiment.
Exactly. An experiment that might not only cannibalize their main business, but also just looks technically inferior. In the short term, it just doesn't make financial or strategic sense. And that's the trap.
The short-term logic blinds them.
Plus, there's a huge element of organizational inertia. Internal politics. Even really talented, aggressive managers can become sort of passively reactive when it comes to their bosses.
Don't want to rock the boat.
Right. This internal dynamic can severely hinder adapting to new disruptive ideas. I mean, challenging the status quo, championing some low-margin idea that seems to threaten the core business, advocating for a radical shift. That can be career-limiting in a rigid corporate culture.
Takes guts and political capital.
Definitely. There was even an HBR article touching on something called ADT, attention deficit trait, basically suggesting that top management often views symptoms of overload or distraction through this distorting lens of morality or character.
Like it's a personal failing.
Yeah, instead of seeing it as maybe a systemic issue, a result of the environment. This distraction makes it incredibly hard to focus on complex, long-term strategic threats. And this kind of internal rigidity, this inability to focus on nascent, often ambiguous threats, it makes an organization deeply vulnerable to disruption.
And the talented people leave.
Often, yeah. If they can't question things or handle the pace, they might just leave, which just compounds the problem.
That's incredibly insightful. It really shows how these internal forces and incentive structures can just utterly blind even the most powerful companies to threats that are slowly, surely eroding their foundations. It's amazing how much human behavior plays into it.
It really is.
Let's bring this to life, though. Let's get into some concrete examples that really illustrate how industries are being disrupted, drawn right from our sources. Take the financial sector, for instance. The rise of fintech.
Oh, perfect example.
Fintechs are essentially democratizing finance. How? By offering digital financial services directly to unbanked consumers at a low cost. That's textbook disruption from below, isn't it?
Absolutely. They're not initially going after the high net worth clients.
No way. They're serving this entirely overlooked or maybe underserved market. People who might not even have a traditional bank account or who find the old services too expensive, too inaccessible.
Simpler, cheaper services, microloans, digital payments.
Things the traditional banks with their huge overhead and all the regulations are often just ill-equipped or maybe even unwilling to provide.
And it's not just in emerging markets, right?
No, exactly. In developed countries, too, these fintechs are aggressively focusing on the advice gap, especially for things like 401ks, ISAs, those defined contribution retirement plans.
Where individuals have more responsibility now.
Precisely. There's been this huge generational shift away from the old defined benefit pensions, where the company handled it. Now individuals have greater responsibility for managing their retirement savings.
And that creates a massive demand for advice.
Huge demand for affordable, accessible financial guidance, which traditional advisors, often focused on bigger accounts, frequently just don't provide to that segment.
So fintechs step in. Algorithms, user-friendly apps, lower cost guidance.
Yeah, they fill the gap the banks largely ignored. And conversely, you look at the traditional banks, they continue to be dominated by their risk management needs and culture.
Right. Risk averse.
They typically offer these bespoke, high-touch, relatively low-tech solutions for clients where the needs are complex and, crucially, the margins are favorable.
Where the big money is.
And for the more commoditized stuff, they aim for more scalable, higher productivity solutions. But even those often carry the baggage of traditional banking infrastructure.
You see the pattern.
Yeah.
Focus where the profit is, where the risk models work.
Which, while rational for their current profits, leaves that simpler, cheaper, often higher volume end of the market wide open for these agile new entrants. The ones without the legacy systems, the heavy regulation, or that fear of cannibalizing their own business.
And this dynamic, this isn't some new thing, right? Just digital age stuff.
Not at all. History shows us this again and again. Even the most dominant industries eventually face this challenge. Sometimes they just become sleepy backwaters.
Yeah, blitzscaling talks about that.
It's a stark reminder. No market remains valuable forever. Think about historically world-changing industries. Cargo ships, railroads, automobiles. They once spawned companies and innovations that changed the world and made generational fortunes.
The high-tech of their day.
Absolutely. But today, they're largely sleepy backwaters.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe with occasional revitalization, like Tesla breathing new life into cars.
But the explosive growth phase is over for many.
Right, and they become prime targets for new forms of disruption if they can't constantly reinvent themselves. The very definition of a valuable market just shifts over time.
And what often triggers that shift?
Well, often it's that the switching costs that once protected the established players, making it hard or expensive for customers to jump ship, they become transparent to all players as the market matures. That's a critical insight from Seven Powers.
Okay, so it gets easier to switch.
Yeah. And when those costs become transparent or they basically disappear, it leads to enhanced competition to grab new customers, which arbitrages out the benefit for new customer acquisitions.
Whoa, okay, unpack that a bit. Arbitrages out the benefit.
Right. Think about switching banks. Historically, it was a pain, right? New forms, changing direct debits, new checks.
Yeah, a hassle. High switching cost.
But now, with digital banking, account portability, open banking, those costs have plummeted. So new fintechs can offer a slightly better interest rate, a simpler app, and grab customers with much less friction.
Ah, okay. The incumbent can't rely on customer inertia anymore.
Exactly. The benefit of holding on to an existing customer or easily acquiring a new one because they're stuck elsewhere, it gets arbitraged out by fierce competition.
So those protective moats just crumble.
They erode. The major value then comes not from holding on to old customers, but from capturing customers before such value-destroying pricing arbitrage transpires. Essentially, incumbents lose their advantages over time to these newer, more agile competitors who offer compelling alternatives without all the baggage.
So just to wrap up this disruption argument,
Yeah,
we're talking about a really powerful force.
definitely.
Often starts small, almost invisible to the giants, offers something simpler, cheaper, more accessible.
Right under their noses.
It thrives on overlooked markets, leverages the internal inertia, the financial priorities of the big guys.
It's not a head-on fight at the top.
No, it's about outmaneuvering, gradually refining, and eventually just redefining what's possible in the whole industry. Less about one radical invention, maybe more about strategic market entry and just continuous expansion.
Kind of like that gale of creative destruction idea.
Exactly. Reshaping the competitive landscape by introducing new ways that eventually make the old ways obsolete. It's a potent, often misunderstood path to market dominance.
The creation credo building from 0 to 1.
Okay, now here's where we pivot. Because there's this truly contrarian view that challenges a lot of assumptions about innovation. Let's explore Peter Thiel's provocative philosophy of creation, or going from 0 to 1.
Yeah, this is a really different perspective.
Thiel basically argues that the most powerful, the most valuable innovation isn't about competing in existing markets at all. Not head-on, not even disrupting from below.
So what is it then?
It's about a much bolder ambition. Building entirely new things, conjuring entirely new markets, and in doing that, fundamentally escaping the brutal, often value-destroying forces of competition altogether.
Escaping competition. Interesting.
For Thiel, true innovation is about moving from 0 to 1, creating something completely novel that literally did not exist before.
0 to 1. Got it.
This is fundamentally different, he argues, and way more valuable than 1 to N, which is just copying or incrementally improving what's already out there.
So like 0 word processors to the first one, 0 smartphones to the iPhone.
Exactly that kind of leap. And the ultimate goal here, it isn't just market share, is to establish what he calls a creative monopoly.
A creative monopoly.
Yeah, offering such a unique solution that nobody else provides that you basically avoid fierce competition because, for a while anyway, you're playing a game where you set the rules and you're the only player.
Wow. Okay, that's a bold goal. And this creation philosophy, it has some very distinct core ideas, right? It's standing in pretty stark contrast to the disruption model.
Absolutely.
Thiel asserts, pretty famously, that every great entrepreneur is first and foremost a designer.
A designer, like aesthetically.
Not just aesthetics, though that can be part of it. He means more like a strategic architectural kind of design. Designing the product, sure, but also the business model, the market, maybe even designing the future itself.
Okay, a grander vision of design.
Exactly. He advocates for careful planning, for definite multi-year plans to create new products. He points to people like Steve Jobs, who notoriously planned product launches years ahead.
Right, not just reacting.
And this directly contrasts with that whole lean startup mentality, constantly iterating with minimum viable products, listening to focus group feedback.
Which Thiel sees as just incremental, 1 to n.
That's his view. He sees it as incremental, not truly transformative, not 0 to 1. For him, it's about having vision and conviction in a singular, bold future, not just agile iteration based on immediate feedback.
Vision over iteration.
And if you connect this to the broader competitive landscape, Thiel's philosophy basically implies that all that enhanced competition and value-destroying pricing arbitrage that Seven Powers talks about in mature markets.
The stuff disruptors might exploit.
Yeah, well, Thiel says that's precisely what 0 to 1 innovators must avoid. Those are symptoms of a red ocean trap.
Red ocean. Bloody competition.
Exactly. A market saturated with competitors fighting over the same shrinking pool of customers leads to diminishing returns, commoditization. Instead, true innovation, the 0 to 1 kind, should inherently lead to a unique market position, building strong barriers to entry right from the start.
Like Porter talked about. Economies of scale, differentiated products.
Precisely. The goal isn't to compete better within the existing rules. It's to create a whole new game where you are, at least initially, the only player. That ensures high margins, the freedom to define the terms.
These are grand, sweeping ideas, requires huge courage, huge foresight. It's essential, though, to see how they actually play out in the real world. Let's look at some examples from our sources that really illustrate this 0 to 1 approach. Elon Musk comes to mind immediately.
Oh, for sure. The ultimate example for many.
Musk is consistently portrayed, like in Ashley Vance's biography, as much more like Thomas Edison than Howard Hughes. He's seen as an inventor, celebrity businessman, and industrialist who takes these huge ideas and turns them into huge products. That embodies the spirit of creation, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Big vision, big execution.
Think about the strategic brilliance of Tesla's charging network. Musk's decision to secretly build a global charging network, the superchargers, for Model S owners, offering free rapid recharges across the U.S. initially. That wasn't disrupting an existing charging market.
Because there wasn't really one to disrupt, not a robust one anyway.
Exactly. He was creating the essential infrastructure for an entirely new, viable electric vehicle future. That move drastically reduced range anxiety, which was a huge barrier to people buying EVs.
Made the whole proposition viable.
Right. It wasn't about a simpler, cheaper car at first. The Model S was premium. It was about building a radically different product and the crucial supporting ecosystem that enabled a totally new way of driving and owning a car.
It kind of echoes Jeff Bezos' early gut call on Kindle ebooks, right? Pricing them at $9.99, even at a loss.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing it as an investment in Amazon's future. Both were these long-term bets on creating entirely new customer behaviors, entirely new markets.
Massive vision required.
And then there's SpaceX. Musk's audacious vision for longer treks to Mars, sending rockets daily, people and things going to dozens of habitats. That's the ultimate 0 to 1 thinking, isn't it?
It doesn't get much more 0 to 1 than interplanetary colonization.
He's not just making rockets incrementally better. He's trying to create an entirely new industry, a new future for humanity in space, fundamentally changing our relationship with the cosmos, The sources mention SpaceX's complex engineering, building advanced fairings, launching missions for the DoD. It shows the meticulous execution of these complex, multi-year plans you need for such bold creations.
Building the foundations for a future that doesn't exist yet. And moving to another icon, Steve Jobs also really embodied this creation philosophy.
Absolutely.
His legendary obsession with visual and experiential perfection, the look and feel of an iDevice or a MacBook, that's part of it. But Thiel argues the greatest thing Jobs designed was his business.
The whole system, not just the object.
Precisely. Jobs understood that to sell electronics hardware as premium-priced luxury items, he had to transform the entire purchase experience. He couldn't just stick them in existing electronic stores.
No, that wouldn't work for the brand he was building.
So he created these shining temples under brilliant lights with ardent young geniuses, salespeople, the Apple stores.
They were revolutionary at the time.
Totally. They weren't just retail outlets. They were these carefully designed experiential spaces, almost like theaters, where customers could be seen by others, not just other customers, but passers-by who could peer in and see you among the select.
Turning the purchase into a social statement.
Exactly. A completely new way to sell computers and electronics. He effectively created his own market for high-end tech retail, elevating the whole category to luxury status.
And the culture matters too, right?
Yeah.
Like the Pixar anecdote.
Yeah, that's interesting. The idea that Pixar was a haven where Jobs could escape the intensity in Cupertino. At Pixar, the storytellers and illustrators seemed more serene under John Lasseter. It suggests a deliberate cultivation of an environment suited to imagination, long-term creative development, distinct from the volatile, high-pressure vibe at Apple.
Different environments for different kinds of creation.
Highlights the importance of that internal environment. It's not just the product, it's the whole system, the culture supporting it.
And for an even older, maybe wilder example, let's turn to 80s Wall Street. Louis Ranieri in Liar's Poker.
Ah, the king of mortgage bonds.
Described as a wild and woolly genius. Started in the mailroom at Salomon Brothers, right? And against all odds, created something truly unprecedented in capital markets. A market in America and then Britain for mortgage bonds.
Totally new financial product, essentially.
It was a massive change in the capital markets. The book explicitly states, no one had ever created a substantial new business at Salomon Brothers except him. Before Ranieri, mortgages were just stuck on bank balance sheets, illiquid. He bundled them, securitized them, made them liquid, tradable.
Created liquidity where none existed.
And at its peak, his department was a powerhouse, generated an astonishing 40% of the firm's revenues.
40%. Incredible.
He was such a dominant force, basically alone in this new domain he created, that he could literally dictate the rules of the mortgage bond trading game as it went along. He could call up 19 thrifts and persuade them to buy our position when he needed to, basically manipulating the market he single-handedly built.
That's not disruption, that's pure creation, establishing a powerful, unique market position.
A true creative monopoly, generating immense value seemingly from nothing. And he's described as a brilliant big-picture guy, less focused on the minutia, which really aligns with Thiel's emphasis on visionary foresight over just incremental improvements.
These examples really drive home the creation argument, don't they? It's about the courage to envision a future that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, the sheer audacity sometimes.
The meticulous planning, the execution of these bold, multi-year strategies, and the disciplined building of unique value that establishes entirely new markets rather than just competing in old ones.
It's about generating real wealth, like the richest man in Babylon talks about. Wealth grows in magic ways.
Expanding the whole economic pie, not just reslicing the existing pieces. This perspective, it really reflects that Schumpeterian gale of creative destruction, but seen from the viewpoint of the creator, the one building the new, defining the future, not just the one tearing down the old.
The intersecting paths, when to disrupt, when to create.
Okay, so what does all this mean for you listening? We've explored these two profoundly different yet equally powerful visions for innovation. Are disruption and creation mutually exclusive? Are they just diametrically opposed forces? Or can they coexist, maybe even feed into each other?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
And is one always superior to the other in every context? It feels like there's this powerful tension here that we really need to dig into.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's rarely just a simple either or choice. It's more like a spectrum of strategic options.
Okay.
While disruption and creation have really different starting points, different methods, both ultimately aim for some kind of market dominance, or at least a uniquely defensible position.
Right. The end goal might look similar in some ways.
Disruption often begins with that low-end or new market foothold. It democratizes access and then gradually expands its capabilities, moves upmarket to challenge the
Mine's
incumbents.
the latter.
Creation, on the other hand, starts with a fundamental invention or a really bold visionary blueprint. It builds a market around it, often starting from a premium or niche position that initially has no direct competitors.
Starts at the top or maybe off to the side entirely.
Exactly. The outcome can be similar, a reordering of the market, new
Uh,
dominant players, significant wealth creation, but the journey, the mindset, the initial strategic moves are quite different.
What about scarcity? That
Yeah.
seems relevant here.
Oh, definitely. Cialdini talks about scarcity and influence as this powerful driver of value. Disruption often creates new forms of abundance, doesn't it?
How so?
By making products cheaper, simpler, more accessible. Disruptors effectively make the old, complex, expensive stuff seem relatively scarce or outdated. Think about streaming making DVDs seem scarce, or digital cameras making films seem limited.
Okay, yeah, I see that. Abundance making the old way scarce.
Conversely, creation often begins by identifying and fulfilling a previously unmet need or desire, which by definition was scarce. Thiel's 0 to 1 is all about providing something truly new that the market craves but couldn't articulate or access before.
Like the first iPhone? The lines around the block?
Perfect example. That waiting line wasn't just marketing hype, it was desirability born from a mix of perceived scarcity of a truly revolutionary device, its unique, newly created value. Sometimes, creation can even manufacture scarcity, like Apple may be intentionally limiting early supplies to amplify demand.
Interesting interplay there.
Ultimately, though, both strategies operate in this turbulent, constantly changing environment. Blitzscaling really emphasizes this. Speed and uncertainty are the new stability.
The new normal.
Both disruptive companies and creative companies have to deeply embrace this adaptability. A disruptive company that starts below. It has to constantly adapt its offerings, improve, move up market, or it risks getting disrupted itself by something even cheaper, even simpler.
Always looking over your shoulder.
And similarly, a creative company. It has to adapt its initial bold vision to market realities, figure out how to scale, fend off the inevitable copycats. The core truth for any organization is just that the need for change never stops.
Constant evolution is required.
Strategic flexibility talks about this too, the never-ending need for change, the critical importance of fostering innovation at the periphery within complex organizations.
So even big companies need to cultivate both.
That's the suggestion. The capacity to nurture disruptive ideas, which often start small and peripheral, and the vision to undertake these big 0 to 1 ventures. Recognizing, of course, that the structure of this and other large organizations inevitably militate against such innovation unless it's consciously managed.
It takes deliberate effort.
Yeah, building that internal capacity for self-assessment, for correction, making sure the organization's approach actually matches the task at hand.
That's a critical nuance, isn't it? Seeing these not as static strategies, but as dynamic processes. But what about the inherent challenges, the risks on each path? For incumbents facing disruption, the risks seem pretty clear and profound.
Definitely. Their organizational performance is often just so deeply tied to existing tacit knowledge and routines. These ingrained ways of doing things make them incredibly resistant to new approaches.
Hard to change course when the ship is huge.
And they face that paralyzing fear of cannibalizing their existing, highly profitable products. Why invest in a cheaper alternative that might eat into the sales of your cash cow, especially when those sales look great on the quarterly reports,
A tough strategic choice often leads to inaction.
leaving them vulnerable? But flipping that, the risks of pure creation 0 to 1 are also substantial, maybe even more daunting in some ways.
How so?
It's truly a creative gamble, as one source puts it. Like an advertiser bidding they can hold your attention for paragraphs before the payoff. You're literally betting on a future that doesn't exist yet, trying to conjure demand out of thin air.
High stakes.
And the failure rate is incredibly high. Many startup ventures face severe cash flow issues, huge risks, precisely because they're trying to create something from nothing. Think about that story of Bezos' Blue Origin rocket spinning out of control at Mach 1.2.
Yeah, spectacular fireball.
Bezos himself said something like, "Not the outcome any of us wanted, but we're signed up for this to be hard." That's a perfect window into the high failure rate, the inherent difficulties in that quest for a fantastic future when you're building from scratch.
Requires immense conviction, almost irrational sometimes.
Like Bezos making those gut calls on ebook pricing, accepting initial losses, even when no research supported the numbers. seeing it purely as an investment in Amazon's future.
That raises a really important question then. Can an existing established company truly go from 0 to 1? Or is creation mostly just for agile startups?
It's definitely harder for incumbents, no doubt. But blitzscaling does note that occasionally companies like Tesla manage to revitalize established industries. Tesla, even though it's an automobile company, really approached manufacturing and energy with a 0 to 1 mindset, challenging every assumption.
So it is possible, but requires a fundamental shift.
Often a cultural shift, yeah. Founders and CEOs are cultural role models, right? If they don't exemplify the culture, it will inevitably weaken. A visionary leader like Musk or Jobs, with that unwavering conviction, that bold vision, they can instill and enforce a culture of creation even within a growing organization.
Leadership sets the tone.
Think about Pixar again. Lasseter setting that serene tone, different from Jobs' volatile apple. It shows how conscious leadership can actively shape the internal environment to foster different kinds of innovation.
Tailoring the culture to the goal.
It's just the general principle of continuous learning, adapting. The new one-minute manager talks about managers adapting to change as a main goal, noticing changes, applying new approaches. That's vital for any company, regardless of size or age, to stay relevant and capable of either disrupting or creating.
But existing corporate cultures can also be huge roadblocks, right? Especially for 0 to 1 thinking.
Absolutely. Think back to Liar's Poker, the culture at Salomon Brothers. Being praised for selling godforsaken bonds, being called a big swinging dick, that highlights a culture rewarding, aggressive, short-term deal-making, massive individual gains.
Totally different from long-term patient creation.
Completely different. It can actively hinder it. That hit-and-run attitude of traders leaving Salomon for bigger payouts elsewhere, the eventual decline of Ranieri's mortgage department despite its initial creative success, it shows how internal dynamics, that relentless focus on immediate profits, a culture of individual heroics, can undermine even incredibly successful creative ventures if the broader corporate culture doesn't support long-term building and reinvestment in true innovation.
The structure itself can fight against it.
Exactly. Unless it's consciously managed, it's a deep-seated challenge for large organizations to pivot to radical creation.
That's a profound thought. The culture you build can either enable or actively sabotage your innovation strategy. So it's not just about which path is better. Maybe it's about understanding the context, the internal dynamics needed for each. Really expands the discussion.
Your innovation journey lessons for the listener.
Okay, this has been an incredible exploration of these two powerful, often contrasting philosophies. Now let's bring it all back home. Back to you listening. What stands out to you in these contrasting visions? How can you use these powerful frameworks, disruption and creation, to inform your understanding of industries, maybe guide your investment decisions, or even shape your own career path, your personal innovation journey?
Yeah, because these frameworks really provide invaluable lenses to view the world through, help cut through the noise. So first, maybe think about identifying opportunities.
Okay.
When you observe a new product or service a company, ask yourself, is this a simpler, cheaper product, aiming to disrupt an existing market from below, finding a foothold in some overlooked segment? Or is it building something entirely new? A true 0 to 1 creation, aiming to define a whole new market category. Just having that clarity helps you understand its potential trajectory, its competitive dynamics.
Makes sense.
You can also proactively look for, say, fragmented industries.
Yeah.
Porter talks about these. They're often ripe for either disruption through consolidation, efficiency gains, new business models, or maybe creation with entirely new, differentiated models that just redefine the whole offering.
Look for the chaos, maybe.
Or look for those new technologies that are just gestating, as Carlota Perez puts it. These often signal impending technological revolutions. They could birth entirely new markets, new 0 to 1 opportunities. Understanding when a tech is moving from installation to deployment can be critical.
Okay, so spotting opportunities. What about evaluating companies, investments?
Yeah, dig deeper than just the surface metrics. Ask, is this company truly creating new defensible value? Establishing a creative monopoly with unique barriers? Or is it merely disrupting by taking existing market share, maybe engaging in intense arbitrage competition where margins get squeezed thin?
Building something lasting versus just grabbing share.
Consider the long-term view. Is the company focused on short-sighted proximate objectives? Or does it have ambitious, maybe even uncomfortable, long-term goals? Howard Marks emphasizes that good decisions fail to work and bad decisions succeed in the short run, just due to market randomness.
Right, the short term can be misleading.
It powerfully reinforces the need for that long-term, conviction-driven vision in both disruption and creation. He suggests looking for asymmetry, where the good years are way more beneficial than the bad years are painful. That kind of aligns with the patient, conviction-driven thinking needed for Thiel's creative monopolies.
Like Benjamin Graham said, the market's a voting machine short term, weighing machine long term.
Exactly. Is the company building true long-term weight that's maybe the 0 to 1, or just riding a short-term wave like disruption that eventually gets arbitraged away? Understanding that difference is crucial.
And these ideas, they aren't just for big corporations or investors, right? They apply to personal innovation, too.
Absolutely. Think about disrupting your own career path. Maybe pivoting to a more accessible, lower-cost way of delivering your skills. Or maybe creating an entirely new niche for yourself where you have unique value.
Your own personal creative monopoly.
Kind of. Both require a definite purpose, as Napoleon Hill wrote. You need to align your actions with your values, have a clear vision of what you're building or changing.
Begin with the end in mind, like Covey said.
Exactly. Stephen Covey talks about paradigm shifts, how being changing, seeing, which in turn changes being. That applies directly here. A shift in how you see opportunities in your own life and career can unlock totally new pathways.
See things differently, do things differently.
Maybe you see a way to disrupt your traditional industry with a simpler digital alternative. Or you envision an entirely new skill combination nobody else has, creating your own unique value proposition. And remember, the E-Myth Revisited. Your business, or even your personal brand, will reflect that optimism if your idea is positive and truly addresses a need. Success depends on how well you communicate the game, your vision, your strategy to your team, your clients, even just to yourself.
So clarity, vision, communication key for personal innovation too. Being proactive, not just reactive.
Precisely. It's about taking control, shaping your path in this changing landscape.
Wow, what a journey we've taken today. We've really dug deep into two profoundly different yet, wow, equally powerful visions for innovation. Whether it's Clayton Christensen's strategic maneuver of disruption attacking from below with simpler, cheaper solutions to redefine markets.
Or Peter Thiel's bold leap of creation.
Yeah, building entirely new markets, those creative monopolies from 0 to 1. Both are such potent forces, but man, they demand different strategies, different mindsets, different tolerances for risk.
Totally different playbooks.
Understanding these dynamics feels absolutely crucial for navigating this rapidly changing world we're in. Doesn't matter if you're a consumer trying to guess the next big thing, an entrepreneur forging your path, or an investor looking for that long-term value.
This whole deep dive, it really raises an important question, though, doesn't it?
Oh.
In this era of just unprecedented, continuous change, is the ultimate form of innovation. Maybe not just choosing between disrupting or creating.
What then?
Maybe it's knowing how to fluidly and continuously redefine what is and what could be. The critical skill for tomorrow's leaders, maybe for all of us, might just be that nuanced judgment. Knowing when to disrupt an existing paradigm, when to courageously create an entirely new one, and maybe even when to blend both approaches.
Anticipating the evolution, questioning assumptions.
Yeah, adapting your strategic lens to the specific situation at hand, so you don't get caught completely off guard by the next big shift.
Absolutely. Strategic wisdom, intellectual agility. That feels right. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the very heart of innovation and for exploring these powerful, sometimes clashing ideas with us.
It was fascinating.
We really hope you'll continue pondering these concepts and applying them to your world. Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep innovating.